Our town is on the air. Brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. You're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson, the host of the program. We have a three-guest program on the docket for this morning. We're going to go into the toy department a little later on in the program, and we will talk to Blake Moen, the new girls basketball coach at Decorah. I had a good conversation with Blake regarding his new duties in addition to his park and rec duties. We also will talk with Karen Henry. She is with Northeast Iowa Community Action. Currently, one county is under a state disaster declaration, and oftentimes, myself, I report that there's a state disaster declaration, but I've been guilty of this as much as anybody. I'm really failed to provide the context to what that means to the regular Joe out there, and Karen gives us plenty of great details on what the state disaster declaration means. Hopefully we won't have to deal with it through the rest of the summer, but obviously it's something that's always going to be in the back of your mind during severe weather season, and Karen provides some great insight on that end of things. But we're going to start, I guess this is probably kind of the toy department this weekend. Free fishing weekend in the state of Iowa. If you want to give fishing a try, you haven't done so, you don't know where to start, you can fish on Iowa lakes and rivers and streams this weekend without a fishing license. And Tyler Stubbs with the Iowa DNR will join us to give us all the details about how to get going on fishing, and hopefully you get that bug bite that you don't want the antidote for. Tyler will be, what shall we say it? Tyler will be our first cast this morning. Maybe it's a lame joke. Probably is. I apologize. To some, I don't. But Tyler will be our first cast this morning here on Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Having a conversation this morning with Tyler Stubbs. He is with the Iowa DNR, and coming up this weekend will be free fishing weekend in the state of Iowa. And Tyler, what is the goal? What is the purpose of having a weekend like this?
That's a great question, Darren. I mean, this June 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's always the first full weekend, first Friday, Saturday, Sunday of June. We have free fishing weekend. It's a great time to get out. If you have not fished before, this is something you've wanted to try, but maybe you didn't want to make that financial jump of purchasing a license, this is your opportunity to go and try that out. This is definitely a weekend where we see lots of people being brought out with family members or neighbors, friends. Fishing is very social, and so it's just one of the positive aspects of it. But this is the opportunity to do that for free. So you save the $22 on the fishing license.
And when it comes to fishing, how important is fishing to the Iowa economy?
Yeah, fishing is, outdoor recreation in general is important. When you buy a fishing license, which we hope that you enjoy fishing and that you end up buying a fishing license afterwards, of course, but that money stays here. It's used on things like fish stockings and fish research and education and fish management. And so it's used in the state that you're fishing in. And so that helps, fund our bureau and the department. And it's, directly put back into the communities.
What if you're new to fishing? It's something you want to try, but you don't know how to get started. Are there resources available to help people in that process?
Oh, there are lots of resources available. Our website is borderline overwhelming with the amount of resources that are out there. One of the most common things that we have that we get on our website question-wise is where can I fish? And so we've got a where to fish tab in the fishing section of our website. That'll show you lakes. It'll show you habitat features that we've placed out on those lakes. There's the Fish Local page, which is our community fishing atlas. So it shows you all those little neighborhood ponds in some of the communities that folks live in. Those are going to be on there, and what's been stocked. How to fish for certain species. If you want to learn how to fish for bluegills, there's a way to do that. There's videos online to show you, how the common setups and bait and that kind of stuff are. So yeah, information is something we want to try to be able to answer all those questions for you, and it's on the website.
And where to fish also is available from the resources I'm looking at right now. From what I understand, you got a list of fully stocked lakes and ponds that are easily accessible in state parks and along trails. And getting people out is one thing, getting them successful at fishing is another. And you know where to find the fish, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, well, I know where they're at, Darren, but
Okay.
I always struggle. It's one of those things. Everybody thinks the fisheries biologist, with sampling and all that, you know where they're at. And I've been out, I've sampled certain trees. There's been fish all over them. I've gone out there, fished a couple days later, and not caught a thing. And so that can happen. But yeah, our lakes, our ponds, they're stocked, they're ready to go. You can find all that information on our website at www.iowadnr.gov/fishing, or by using the DNR Go Outdoors app, which you can also purchase your license from that as well and keep that handy on your mobile device.
And let's say somebody goes out this weekend and the bug bites them and they don't want to get the antidote for it and they want to purchase a fishing license. How do they go about doing so?
Yep. So there's a number of retailers across the state where you can purchase a license. Those are on our website, but you can also use that Go Outdoors app. It's Go Outdoors Iowa, and purchase your license, straight from your phone. You can keep it on your phone electronically. If you were to get checked later on in the year or something by a conservation officer, you can have it there on your phone. One of the cool things about the app too is you can link it together. So if you've got a spouse or you've got a child over 16 that also needs a license, you can keep those on your phone too. So you've got them all in one location, and it makes it easier that way. Residents here in Iowa, you don't need a license until you turn 16. So kids are under 16 are free fishing every weekend of the year.
Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to add about free fishing weekend or outdoor recreation in general?
Yeah, well, we just want to make sure that you have a good time. Bring snacks, bring bug spray, bring sunscreen, bring all that kind of stuff. Wear your life jackets if you're going out on boats and kayaks. Make sure you're paying attention to water levels and that kind of stuff. We want you to have a good, safe time, but the lakes are ready to go. This is a perfect time of year to be fishing, especially if you're a shore angler. And the bluegills, for instance, all across the state are pretty close to shore, pretty accessible to catch. Largemouth bass, same thing, but we want you to have a great time and explore what Iowa has to offer. There's a lot of stuff here going on and a lot of places for people to check out.
And one more question for you, Tyler. Obviously, it's been a little bit wetter of a spring than, I guess, the last couple of years when we've had record droughts in the state of Iowa. How could potentially that affect the fishing outlook?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, water's receding in a lot of places, especially on our rivers and streams, but water got up a little higher there for a while. That flooded vegetation, flooded trees, that kind of stuff. If water's still high in your area, those are great places to fish. Just be mindful of water levels and safety and water currents and that kind of stuff. You can check water gauges through USGS as well, depending on what river stretch that you're on. But wear your life jackets if you're out and about. Ponds, lakes, that kind of stuff. A lot of the water levels almost back to normal, especially here in central Iowa where I'm at. And so change is pretty minimal. But some of these areas across state I know still have some high water going on, and just respect that and be safe and mindful of that before you go out.
Tyler, appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, but we thank you for taking a few minutes to tell us about free fishing weekend coming up this weekend. Here's to a great summer on Iowa's rivers and lakes.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Tyler Stubbs with the Iowa DNR. It's free fishing weekend this weekend. Having a conversation this morning with Karen Henry. She is with Northeast Iowa Community Action Corporation, and we're going to be talking about disaster declarations. We've had our fair share of severe weather to this point. Whether that continues or not, I'll leave the predicting up to other people that are smarter than me. And speaking of people smarter than me, that's why we have Karen on the program. And Karen, I often, and I'll blame myself for this as much as anybody else, I'll often report on the news that we have a statewide disaster declaration for a certain area, but I don't really do a very good job in my mind of providing the context of what that means to the average person out there. Take us through the process of a statewide disaster declaration has been declared. Now, what happens? How does community action get involved from that point?
Okay, so what starts the whole process usually begins with the county emergency management coordinator. They're out assessing damages within the specific county. And if they see damages to the residents within the county, as far as like damages to their personal property, they're going to request to the governor, hey, we have storm damages in our area, and we would like a disaster declaration for our county. The governor is very good at granting these requests. So as soon as the request has been granted, that will turn on the Iowa Individual Assistance Grant Program. When this program gets enacted, that's when community action gets involved. And then you get our PSA saying, hey, we have a declaration within our county. And right now we have 2 separate declarations that we're working with in our area. The first declaration was from the weather on April 16th. That declaration was for Elmekey and Fayette County. Applications for the Iowa Individual Assistance Grant Program for that declaration ends on June 3rd. And the second declaration was for the severe weather on May 22nd. And the applications for that severe weather ends on July 8th.
And that's for Fayette County only as of this time,
that's for
correct?
Fayette County. Yep,
okay.
Only for Fayette County. So talking about the Individual Assistance Grant Program. Oftentimes we get a lot of questions regarding the program. Who qualifies? How do they qualify? What does the grant cover? The grant covers any personal property for individuals that are at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. For household damages, the homeowner must be living in the home, so it's their primary home, not their vacation home, but their primary home. Damages have to have occurred because of the severe weather. So if they have existing damages to their home, it's not going to be covered. But the tree falls down on the house and it damages part of the house, or the severe storms is wind damage and it takes off part of the shingles off the roof. That is severe damage, severe storm damage. That is part of that grant program that we can cover. Things like that. Things we don't cover would be pole sheds. Okay. That's not personal property damage. The intent of the program really is to make sure that people stay in their homes safe and secure. Pole sheds have nothing to do with being in their homes safe and secure. So,
and before we go any further, you mentioned that it needs to be storm-related damage. How do you go about verifying or proving that that damage was storm-related as compared to it being there before?
Pictures.
Okay.
We ask them to take pictures. We ask for the homeowner to be in contact with their insurance company. So if they have insurance, we are asking for that insurance information once the insurance claim has been taken care of. If it's a rental property, of course, we're not able to help the homeowner since the homeowner is not living in the home. We can't help repair the home. But if the renter who's in the home has their personal property damaged within the home, we can assist the renter's personal property. For example, when we had the flood, how many years ago, we had a lot of renters that had water damaged property, and we were able to assist with replacement of their personal property that was water damaged. So it all depends on who owns the personal property. So we really do our due diligence to figure out what is damages due to the severe weather and what would have been pre-existing damage. So a lot of pictures, insurance companies, we talked to a lot of contractors. $5,000 is not a lot. However, there was a really good change that happened about a year ago. Previous to a year ago, we couldn't help people that had insurance coverage with their deductible. Sometimes that's all they needed assistance with, is that gap between what the insurance paid and what they had to pay, that deductible. Now we can. So if they have a $5,000 deductible, which is a big chunk of change, if they're eligible for the program, we can assist towards that $5,000 deductible. So that was a great change that the program had made. We fought that for many, many years, and that finally happened last year. So
and when let's break down a little bit on who is eligible for this assistance. I guess who is eligible for this assistance based on the guidelines that this program has set.
So to apply, a household could visit our website, complete the application, and submit it. Along with the application, they would have to provide proof of gross income for everybody who lives in the home, and proof of copies of photo IDs for all adult members of the household. Based on their income, we would determine if they're at 200% or less of the federal poverty guidelines. So,
and what would that be?
So for 4 people in the household, it would be $62,400 for gross income for 4 people this year.
Okay.
So if that household has less than that for gross income this year in the last 12 months, file tax return, they would be eligible. Once all of that verification came through and we deemed them eligible, we would then look at their damages to ensure that the damages were storm-related damages. That's the insurance. That's the contractor that comes out and assesses the damage. That's the pictures. We would be talking to the contractors to assess what is it going to take to put them back to where they were prior to the storm that came through, to make it safe for them to stay in their home. And then we would work with the contractor to get the repairs done, and we would pay direct to the contractor for the work that's done. And we would also work with the insurance. The insurance would pay the contractor, we pay the contractor. So we're all in this negotiating of when payments are made. Now, if it is personal property on a smaller scale, let's say it is, my power was out for 24 hours and now I have food spoilage. We oftentimes have people that will apply to replace the food, and they'll go out and purchase food that was spoiled and submit those receipts to us, and we will reimburse those funds to them because they're replacing the perishable foods that have spoiled due to the power outage. So that is also something that we're able to do.
And you've explained the Iowa Individual Assistance Grant Program very well. Also related to disaster declaration is the Iowa Disaster Case Advocacy Program. Explain that program for us.
So the grant program is based on income eligibility. Advocacy program goes along with that and also goes above and beyond that. So if we have someone that applies and is not income eligible for the grant program, we can work with them through the advocacy program. The advocacy program, with or without the grant program, is working side by side with the applicant to create a recovery plan to get them back to where they were prior to the severe storms. So let's say that their goal is to repair the roof damage. What is it going to take to get them to the repair of that roof damage? So we're going to set the goal, and then we're going to give action steps and assign who's going to be responsible for each action step. So it's kind of setting short-term and long-term goals for us and for the customer who's applying for the advocacy part of the program. It has no monetary value assigned to it. There's no money that you can get from that program, but there's also no criteria, so they can be over the income guidelines, but we can still work with them. It's just another way for us to support the family to meet their goals, their end goal, give them the support and advocacy that they need, and also to ensure that they have the proper referrals that sometimes people don't know about within their own community, and we have a lot of those referrals in our pockets.
And what you're discussing here is assistance related to state disaster declarations that Fayette County and Alameda County are currently under. Obviously, we hope we don't need to get to this point, but there are federal disaster declarations that become a part of things that we in our area most notably knew during the recent floods of the last 15 to 20 years. Do you get involved at all on the federal level, or is that a separate animal?
So as soon as FEMA is enacted, we step out of it.
Okay.
When they step in, we no longer take applications for the individual grant application. I believe we can still continue with the disaster advocacy program, but we would no longer take applications for the grant program because FEMA is far more than what the grant is. Our grant through Iowa is only $5,000.
All right, good to know. For those that are wanting some assistance, have questions, needing some assistance, how do they contact Northeast Iowa Community Action?
You can visit our website at www.neicac.org. We have a chat online if you can't get your answers by just visiting. Our chat is available 8 to 3 most days, every day, 8 to 4:30, Monday and Wednesday. You can call us here at the agency, 563-382-8436. We do have offices in all of our 7 counties, and those locations are listed on our website. Also, we would love to give you more information about the program and answer all the questions that you might have. It is a oftentimes very misunderstood program and what we can assist customers with. But we are very happy to explain what we're able to assist with and help you with those applications if you need.
Anything we're missing? I know we've covered a lot of things during our conversation this morning, but anything else the public needs to know about what you can provide folks dealing with these situations?
One of the biggest things to remember, besides being always ready for disasters, which I know a lot of us are not, and hope that we never need to have a recovery plan and never have to really enact anything like that, is to always be prepared. But if we do have a severe weather event in our area, one of the most important things that you could do is to contact your local emergency management coordinator and let them know about damages within your area. That the more information that they receive gives them more information to ensure whether or not they should ask for a declaration. If they do not know that there's damages in the area, they might not ask for that declaration. If there's no declaration, there's no grant. So it doesn't hurt to ask for a declaration and nobody applies for the grant. It's not a big deal. I'd rather have a declaration and nobody apply than have no declaration and have people out there that could have used it. So just be aware that if there's ever any damages, just reach out and let us know.
All right, Karen, you've done a very good job of explaining the situation that I probably don't do a good enough job when disaster declarations are declared for our area. And let's hope we don't have to deal with it this summer, but reality is we probably will. And we appreciate you taking the time to explain this to us. And thank you for the time and for all you do for our communities at Northeast Iowa Community Action Corporation.
Thank you for having me.
Karen Henry from Northeast Iowa Community Action Corporation. Well, over the years, we've had a chance to interview Blake Moen on a variety of topics. Now we're getting back to the Coach Moen end of things. Blake has recently been named the new girls basketball coach at Decorah High School. And Blake, what made this the right time to jump back into the coaching end of things with 2 feet?
Yeah, absolutely, Darren. And again, as always, appreciate you having me on. I think really, Darren, for me, it was just a matter of, it always comes down to family for me. I have 2 little boys that have kept me plenty busy over the past 3 years, and raising them and getting them to where they are now, as all parents know, is definitely a lot of fun, a lot of challenges come in place. But for me, Darren, I think the timing of it worked out great, just because my kids are getting older. They're taking along with me to a lot of my full-time job duties on Saturday mornings for flag football and everything else. And that was the reason why I stepped away a few years ago, to focus on them. Now they're getting a little older. I'm looking forward to jumping back into coaching and having an awesome opportunity to be the women's basketball coach at Decorah.
When you look at your basketball career, I know you've coached a little bit at Decorah, also coached at Southwind. How have you grown as specifically a basketball coach in that time, and how do you kind of pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I would answer that kind of in 2 different ways, Darren. On the basketball end and on kind of like the leadership culture end, I always believe that as a coach, you should always be looking to grow, even if you're not coaching. And for me, I haven't helped out at the high school level for 3 years, but being just in the background, still sticking up with the game and following the game, and being able to still talk to the coaching connections that I have, and sticking up with the basketball itself has been something that I've still been doing, even though, as I said. But with that being said, Darren, on a leadership standpoint, I've really been able to grow in the past few years, not coaching, in my current role from a leadership standpoint. standpoint, from a organization standpoint. And I also mentioned my two boys. Being a parent, you grow a lot more, I think, being a parent than anything else. And so just having kids you grow up a lot with having kids, as young parents know, and I'm always constantly learning and growing in that regard as well. But I think a lot of things in my life have happened over the few years that have set me back up to get back into coaching and also be able to help young people again.
What makes a good coach?
I think you got to have resilience for the right reasons, Darren. I think you get into coaching because you want to be around young people. You want to challenge young people. And as I said, resilience, you want to be resilient, not only try to teach that in your athletes and student athletes, but also your players, or also in yourself. Sorry. I think that you're only doing a disservice to your athletes and players if you aren't constantly trying to learn and trying to get better and trying to improve, whether it's an X's and O's standpoint or whether it's a leadership standpoint or whatever it may be. So I think a good coach is someone who's always going to put the kids number one, going to be resilient for them as well, and also be able to just continue the growth process and try to instill that in your athletes as well.
How have you done what you just touched on over your coaching career? How have you grown in the ways you just touched on?
Yeah, for sure, Darren. No, it's kind of funny. I think back, my first coaching gig, I'll call it, was when I was 14 years old. I was a Little League baseball coach under Andy Nimrod for Summer Park Rec. And I think back then I just fell in love with working with kids and teaching them sports. And not only that, but utilizing that sport as a way for them to learn certain life lessons about responsibility and teamwork and so on. Then my first, what I would say, my first coaching gig while I was in college was I was a ninth grade basketball coach for John Carlson at the time. And man, I just fell in love with it more and more. And not just working with kids and whatnot, but more so the sport of basketball. I just absolutely fell in love with and coaching it. As an athlete myself, Darren, I was probably a better baseball player than anything else, but man, coaching basketball, I've just fallen in love with not only the X's and O's, but the fundamentals, the coaching connections you make, and also the connections you make with young people. And as I transitioned to my previous head coaching role at Southwind, I was there for 4 years where I learned a lot, not only about coaching styles and everything else, but I think one thing that when I was out of college, it was kind of this is the way we're going to do it, and this is the best way, and blah, blah, blah. You're here to tackle the world. As I've gotten older and become a parent and been able to reflect through coaching years, I mean, I think you take a step back, you become very patient. I think you have a different mindset on those things there. And as I talked about earlier, you're always constantly growing. And so I think through the years, as my time at Southwind and my time Decorah High School before that, and now entering into Decorah, I've been able to progress.
And you mentioned you coached ninth grade basketball under Coach Carlson a few years ago. Having him as kind of a side-by-side ally when it comes to overall hoops in Decorah, how much did that appeal to you? Granted, they're different sports, boys and girls, but you're basically playing on the same night and you're working together to schedule practices, etc., youth activities like that. How much did that possibility of working with JC again attract you to this job?
JC's the man. I love JC. Will always be a real good friend of mine, and he's was a huge reason, a huge asset for that, Darren. You mentioned my ninth grade role with him. I think that was my first experience with yes, as a coach, you got to be focused on your team, but you're sharing gym space, you're sharing the weight room, you're sharing everything else, the school, meeting rooms, everything. And so, John, I think I learned so many things from him over the years, Darren. But one of the things I learned back then was just that is such importance of building rapport with your other coaches, whether it's the boys program, the girls program, the wrestling program, and other sports. Because at the end of the day, what I love about Decorah High School is that our culture there and our head coaching philosophy there is We're there to build young people, and winning state titles and everything is always on the docket at the varsity level. It's always an exciting thing, but I think without a doubt, our number one goal is to build successful men and women to graduate from our school and be the best adults they can be. And John taught me a lot about that in those early years, and it only progressed as I went to Southwind. But being able to build that rapport and that trust and that responsibility with the other coaches is really, really important, especially at a size school like Decorah.
And you've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of great coaches. I mean, your grandfather, Ken Fernanger, your mom was in teaching, many great coaches you've been around either as a colleague or as a student athlete. Is a case of kind of taking a little bit of everything that you've learned from all those folks and developing your own personality?
I think, yeah, at the end of the day, Darren, you are who you are. And I think that's the most important thing for coaches, and especially young coaches, to know, is that you at the end of the day, you are who you are. But back to that growth, I've pulled things from a lot of mentors that I've had over the years, Darren. You mentioned my grandpa. He for sure was number one, but I look at some of the other coaches that are right now at the high school. Mike Tungan was a great coach for me through the years when I was in high school, and I've picked up things from him. Coach Owenzak and Coach Post were huge idols of mine when I was in school and played for them. Picked up things from them. When I was at Luther, I was so fortunate to be able to be a student coach under Aaron Hafner and Brian Nickel, who are both very good friends of mine. And I learned a lot from them too. And so I think those are just some examples, Darren, of you're constantly learning, but those are some of the people that I've had over my time that you take little bits and pieces from people, and then you kind of make it into your own self. But I think that's the biggest thing, Darren, that I believe is that at the end of the day, you have to be yourself to your athletes and to yourself, but also constantly be working with other coaches to grow and see what you can improve on.
How important is getting the job at this specific time, knowing the fact that you can get the off-season activities rolling in a certain direction, and the student athletes in this program don't have that uncertainty of who is going to be leading them into the fall and ultimately the winter?
Oh, I think it's huge, Darren. I think it's huge. And one of the things under our plans is to meet with our current girls that participated this past year in basketball and have a meeting with them to kind of kick off our summer and treat that meeting as a kickoff to introduce each other, but also get gears rolling. But I think it's important, Darren, because as you know, I'm going to be a huge proponent for 4 sports and everything else. I also think it should be a big proponent that we have something in place for the summer workouts, whether it's strength and conditioning, gym time, whatever it may be. And I think it's really, really important for our girls to know, that I'll be the head, and we'll be having something this summer, and it's good for us to meet and be on the same page. One of the luxuries I have as well is that in my full-time job with Park and Rec, there are a number of our current girls that were on the basketball team this year that are employees of mine. So, which is great. You go through the roster and list and be like, oh yeah, they work for us. They're a softball coach for us. They work here and there. So that's fun for me, Darren, to have a relationship with some of them already. And I'm looking forward to meeting the other ones and getting to know them and to kick off summer.
Final question. What do you want the qualities of a Blake Moen coached basketball team to be?
I think for me, Darren, at the end of the day, I mentioned how my number one goal is that all of our student athletes are working towards a best version of themselves to graduate high school and to be the best adult they can be. During the basketball season in particular, I think enthusiasm, energy, and passion is going to be my number one thing. In my experiences coaching basketball, I think if you bring those 3 things to practice, to a game, to a workout, whatever it may be, you can flip a switch so easily where we can get better as a team, we can get better as a group, whether it be basketball specific or not. And so I think that's going to be a big push for me, is that we're going to be focused, we're going to be enthused, we're going to be excited to be there and get better, but we're also going to bring a lot of passion and energy that hopefully we'll be able to be pretty much constant throughout the gym. And I'm really, really looking forward to meeting the rest of the girls and getting started.
Blake, appreciate the time as always. I'm not trying to get sappy here. There's a few people that I know that I'm a bigger fan of being around young people and coaching and mentoring them, whether it's in your professional job with Parks and Recreation Department and now getting back into the high school coaching end of things. There's few people I'm a bigger fan of than Blake Moen. Happy to have you back at the head coaching end of things, and I know you'll do great things for the young people in Decorah. Thanks for the time, and appreciate it, and good luck as you start another venture.
Likewise, Darren. No, I appreciate you having me on as always. Huge proponent for Northeast Iowa sports, and everyone else. I really appreciate you having me on, and as I said, I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get started.
Blake Moen, the new girls basketball coach at Decorah. Hey, thank you to our guest on the program, Tyler Stubbs from the Iowa DNR. Free fishing weekend this weekend. IowaDNR.gov for all of the details regarding that. Karen Henry with Northeast Iowa Community Action did a great job of explaining what actually goes into a state disaster declaration and how folks can get helped out when those disaster declarations take place. Currently, Fayette County is still under a disaster declaration from the storms of May 21st. And I want to thank Blake Moen. We've talked to Blake in a variety of roles over the years. This one, he's getting back into the coaching world as he is the new girls basketball coach at Decorah. And I'm excited for Blake and the young people of Decorah to have a good person leading that program. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you're busy. Got a lot of things going on. It's summer. You're going in one direction, you're going in the other direction, and often at the same time. So you can't always be near a radio or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. We want to bring these conversations to you on your schedule. If you're out and about, searching on YouTube, go to 6-6 Our Town program. That's a great way to get this program. We can also put up the links on all of our Facebook pages as well. It's what we do to keep you in touch with our communities here at LA Communications. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. And we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.